I think, Anne, I don't know, you probably know who most of us are, but if you want, we can all introduce ourselves. It's up to you what you think is best. You might. Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah, I think I know who everybody is.
Okay.
Maria, I've met your husband. I haven't met you.
And Jeannie is new on the committee this year, so you might not, I know you have been to committee meetings in years past, but Jeannie is new this year, so you guys may not have met yet. So, and here comes Adam, so we get a few late joining, but I will go ahead and ask for approval of the agenda and the minutes from last time. Andrew sent an email that included that, so hopefully everyone got a chance to look over it. And we'll just do it by acclamation. So unless there is a change or anything, and I did get your name on the attendees, on the roll call for the agenda for today. So we'll update that. Hi, Adam. So any changes or amendments or anything to either the agenda or the minutes for tonight? Okay, so approved by acclamation. And then we kind of went through introductions already. We'll just move on to our new business, which our first one is a staff update. So I'm not sure if the first one on the agenda is tennis court, so I'm not sure if that's you, Jacob, or Glenn, or Sam, or tag team it. So I'll turn it over to you guys.
Okay, I'll go ahead and start, and I'll probably, since I'm here, I'll give a quick overview of kind of what's been going on, so you guys can be updated on things. Wanted to really highlight the, maybe some of you have seen it, the operational assessment that was completed. We took that to the board in April, and then on last Thursday, we took all the recommendations for approval, and the board approved all of those. So I want to give a couple of highlights. We restructured the staff. We did not add any positions. We just moved a number of positions around. So there's a couple of highlights. We have an operations manager, which will oversee all of our maintenance pieces, which include streets, stormwater, facilities, mechanics, and janitorial, as well as turf. So that position was approved, and we'll be moving to hire that. Jacob has been in the interim role, and he's in his final week. So we'll be doing that permanently. Another one that actually could really help this committee in some ways is a land use planner. We took the compliance manager and are going to turn that into a land use planner. Now that helps the ACC, of course, but it also can help us secure grants, especially in parks. It'll also help us do one of the things that should be considered and is a parks, recreation, and open space plan, which you kind of have started in some ways, but finishing that up and making it a little more comprehensive will allow us to start accessing more grants. It's really consistent with the comprehensive plan process that the board has undertaken, basing their strategic planning on that. It's consistent with that. And a planner will be part of helping write those things. And if we do work with consultants, there'll be someone who can speak the language of the consultant and help facilitate that with certainly this committee. We've changed the maintenance manager into a maintenance supervisor, allowing for a little more redundancy at the top of the maintenance organization, and the ops manager comes over that to make consistency. So that'll help with that. We also added a little CPA power with a part-time CPA, which we're already paying for. But long-term, we'd like to have control, and the person who's doing it is quite good, and we want to keep her. And so we were able to do that. So that's kind of the staffing piece. And then we're working on a number of IT updates, technology improvements. A number of them, I think all of them will impact this committee in some way. First one is an agenda software. Agenda, meeting minutes, and videos will all be accessible in one place. So rather than email them out all the time, you will have access to that system and be able to just access it online and at any time. And same with the minutes, we'll be able to keep them much more live, and the videos as well. So they'll be much more manageable per committee and make that process so much easier for staff, but a lot easier for the public and for the committees themselves. The second one is a software, an app actually that accepts, that takes citizen concerns. As an example, if we had a picnic table broken in a park and someone saw it, they could snap a picture, put it on the app, send it to us. We get it right then. It goes right to the person who should get it. And then they can take a look at it immediately. And then should you want to, as part of the app, you would get an email back that talks about our activity. So someone could give them a direct response, or they would just see in an email that we have gone to review it, and then we went and repaired it. So that has been a concern for the community, is getting feedback on when they have something that's come up. So that's the next one. There is a long-term, we've talked about a couple things. I guess the next one in priority would be a reservation software for all of our facilities. And that, of course, impacts our rec piece a lot. Allows people to reserve much easier, much quicker, allows us to track collect the money a lot easier if we're collecting money for it. If we're not, it just helps us control the scheduling altogether, and then people can see what the schedule is. So it's much more transparent about when things are available, help us manage our it would have helped a lot to have it during COVID. Certainly as we're coming out of COVID, it would have helped a lot with the rec center, exercise room, and the pools as we reopen those. So that's kind of the highlights of the changes. There's a couple of other things. I guess I wanted to bring up because I know you'll be interested in this too, is there's two pieces of a master planning process. One would be the maintenance area, which the board approved, and it's more of looking at the maintenance at Area Z to be able to, and probably a little bit at turf, to be able to improve operations in an interim way, because those places are pretty tight and there's a lot of antiquated buildings. And then the second one that they put a hold on is doing a master planning process for the rec corridor. So it would be barns 6 and 7, and what used to be 7. You could easily include the ice barn as well. But the idea there is that you do a community master planning process where you have high involvement to be able to make provide a bunch of information. So eventually the board and the community can make a decision about what they want to do. That was, I do have a proposal that I've gotten that I'll be sharing with the board in the near future, but I think for good reason, they wanted to delay that decision and move forward on that as they finish their strategic planning effort and dig into a number of other details before they get to that. So I think that was a wise move, but it's definitely something that needs to be considered and worked on. As I told them, there's a lot of part information out there about those buildings, but there's not a comprehensive look with actual real world costs and actual real world activities that should happen there. And there's no real comprehensive way of looking at your funding package. Because right now we know we could get a lot of free stuff done through PSE, through grants. So, all of those things need to come together to make a comprehensive plan about what could be done there, and then the community can make a good decision. I think that's consistent with where the community has been moving recently. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to do that. Another thing that I'm working on right now that wasn't part of that is to continue to try to work with the committees to make sure staff is here to give you the information you need and support you the best way we can in your work, because you're all volunteers and you're all working hard in an area that you're passionate about. Certainly, Parks and Trails is part of that. And we want to be here to create a improved partnership between staff and committees. So with that, unless there are questions, I'm going to hand it to Jacob to talk about tennis courts.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Sorry, just had to get my unmute button done, clicked off. But so as far as tennis courts go, several years ago, it showed up on the reserve study, some work, and clearly we needed to do work on some cracks that were developing and a lot of different issues in the tennis courts, fence issues. So we started looking at that. We ended up last year I ended up talking to contractors trying to get bids for repair, and ultimately no one was interested in the repair bids because in their opinion the courts were too old to facilitate those repairs lasting very long. And I did get that one excuse me, I did get that one bid to the Parks and Trails Committee, I believe last year. And really the rough cost, just so people know, is somewhere, when you rebuild a court, it's about $100,000 by the time you get through permits and fencing and all the items that come with a tennis court. So that's a total rebuild of the surface and below, the subsurface and the fencing and whatnot. So where we're at right now, our goal was this summer to go in and do excuse me again, do crack repair. And what we have right now is we have the products to get an estimate of what that would cost. We've spent just a little under $1,000 getting a lot of the products we need to grind out, chip out the broken off surface. In places there's a two-part filler that goes in, and then also we would be testing a kind of an over or a resurface coating that would go on top of the entire court, so that we can get idea of cost and if we can do it and how many man hours, because using our staff is tough, just because they've got a lot of other obligations with the pools and the parks and whatnot. But that's a possibility. So after I leave, they'll be trying to get that done and get an update to Sam and Glenn on what our cost would be kind of in total for all of the courts to at least fill the cracks and maybe resurface them. So that's where we're at right now. Any questions on that?
No, I think that sounds good. That's kind of what we had talked about last year with Maddie, but we really never had a chance to talk directly with you. So there's always a little bit of telephone game, like things possibly get lost. So thanks for coming and talking to us and kind of letting us know what the process will be.
Yeah, and if I could, I ended up talking to I think 5 companies, and just there was limited amount of time they had, and they just weren't interested in that. So it might be in a little different economy, you could get some better support on repairs, but ultimately they just didn't think it was worth it. But we'll go ahead and get some numbers, or the staff that's in Parks will get some numbers together, get them to Glenn and Sam and see what the total actual cost would be to go through and do it. And I will preface that this has to be done in very dry weather with, above 60-degree temps. And we will have to close them down while we do it so they can cure. So just bear that in mind. They will be having to do that. And if we did a wholesale repair, obviously weather is crucial to all that work.
Right. Thanks,
Yeah.
Jacob. Maria, it looks like you have a question.
I do. How old are the tennis courts?
Well, it's hard to say. I know when I looked into the replacements, we dug up at least 3 lifts on these asphalt courts. So they've had product built up 3 times, kind of like an asphalt road surface. And so, that dates back probably to the original, when the tennis courts were installed. I don't believe they've ever been, I think they've always just been overlaid. And the problem with that is kind of like with roads, if you don't fix the underlying problems of movement in the not the slab, but these are asphalt, they just lay it down on top of the aggregate and then it moves with the ground. And so that's what causes these cracks. So, there's different types of tennis courts. There's concrete, there's pre-stressed type courts that have a barrier around the edge. We have a very simple type. It's a asphalt surface with a coating on it, and we're on our 3rd generation of that. And so at this point, the companies I talked to over the phone or in person all recommended rebuilding, but they probably date back their estimates in the photos I have to the 70s when they were originally installed in Sudden Valley.
Any other questions, comments on that?
I had another question for Glenn. I'm going to preface that it's my first time being able to join the committee. I had a death in the family, so I was away when you all started meeting, and I'm also new to the area. So these questions were to Glenn in regards to the agenda platform, the app for reservation, and the app for citizen encounters. What's the cost behind that?
So the one for agenda software is a little under $5,000 and annually, and we will be able to pay for that by some contracts and some things that we know technology that is antiquated and we don't need to pay for anymore. It's about the same cost for the concern software. That's just a little bit under 5,000 as well. Both of those we've done bids for. We've gone through the process and we'll be bringing them to the board in the near future to get approved. And they're both funded based the same way. The reservation software, we haven't done the research yet. There's a lot of them out there and there's a lot of different kind of criteria that we need to put into that. There's a couple reasons why we haven't. Of course, we're just rebuilding, rec in a number of ways. Plus, I believe that's something we would like to bring here. When we do some initial assessments, we would run them by you and kind of go the pros and cons, and I would like to get your recommendation going forward to the board. That's kind of how a lot of the other committees are working, and I'd like to get that process going. But that one would be something we would start researching here in the next few months with the idea of hopefully moving through the budget process and maybe including it in that moving forward for 2022 implementation.
So currently, is there currently staff time that does the agenda, and is there staff time that does the concerns? I think I filed a concern. It was really weird. It was when your old maintenance folk was here. So
Yeah.
So that one's a little more streamlined. I'm just thinking about that if we're taking jobs away from like an actual human being by going to computerized.
No, we're actually helping not add other jobs. There are things that don't get as much attention because we are spending so much time on committee agendas and minutes and all of that. I mean, we spend, I mean, just this week we have this meeting tonight. We have 2 tomorrow, and we have 1 on Thursday. That's the committee meetings. And we're currently preparing for the board meeting next Thursday, all at the same time. So there is a lot to it, and this just streamlines that process and allows our admin team to be able to do other things. And it's the same thing with the other software. It just allows us to communicate and be more transparent and more service oriented across the board, not just focusing on specific things. But no, there'll be no reductions because of it.
Any other questions on that? Hey, Steffi, if you're there, Andrew had just asked if I wouldn't mind kind of facilitating this meeting since he wasn't able to make it. He hadn't been able to connect with you when he talked to me. If you want to run it, I'm happy to
No.
let you, or I can keep doing it.
I got a toddler in the background. So
Okay.
nope.
Oh yeah, that's going to be tricky. Okay, I'll do it.
Thanks.
Okay, so if there's no more questions or comments on that, we'll move on to the second bullet under staff updates, which is 2021, 2022 priorities.
You going to take some of this, Sam, or you want me to?
Could you take it for me, Glenn? I'm going to answer this chat real quick.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, so just started working. Of course, with COVID, it opens up all kinds. You know, as we open up, it's changed how recreation has been done, of course, because some of it hasn't been, and then one of the things we know from the last the survey that went out last year was how important recreation is to the community, and I would include in recreation as of course the active recreation of using the facilities we have, and including trails. I mean that was highly ranked for everyone. So kind of the entire thing. So we're looking at how we're going to come out of COVID, how we're going to start providing the services. So we've been, because that just popped open and now we know, that at least June 30th, it's likely to be full open. We're planning on getting the rec center up and running. Sam has been working all along with our service providers who provide recreational services on when they can come back and when they want to. Many of them wanted higher levels of to make sure everyone had the shots and had a chance to do that before they brought some of their groups together. But I think they're going to start moving in that direction because of the percentage of folks who have received it, and our numbers are continuing to climb. I saw today 56% of the state had at least one shot. So that's a positive movement. And so what are we going to focus on? Well, we want to focus on being able to bring people together in a meaningful way, because we believe all of us want to get together and get connected again. So we're looking at creating some events to be able to do that. And we've started planning them. Now they're very similar, mostly they're events that have been done in the past, but we looked at our most successful ones from the recent past. So the pool opening is the first event, which is a week from Saturday. So we're going to do a grand opening event. Just do some minor stuff, but we're looking at the 4th of July. That's always a big one. And for sure, it'll be, if everything happens on the 30th, it'll be our first open holiday, and it'll be a couple days after. People will just be looking for fun stuff to do. So we're going to create that. we also, I think, and we've talked about it as a staff, that even though it's opening, people are going to want to stay close to home still. And so that really, and that's, I think that's a somewhat of a tradition here in Sudden Valley to do that anyway. So we want to be there on 4th of July. We're talking about a summer event. We've talked about a number of different things, and we're thinking about just putting a day together and put a number of different events in it. And we want to end with a community movie. We just think that would be a lot of fun. So we're starting to plan that one. Understand that the Halloween event has always been really popular here, and we're gonna bring that back. And then the Santa event around Christmas is another one we're going to target. I feel like we've got the staff and the energy, and of course we'll be tapping volunteers and all kinds of folks to help make this happen. But it's a good way to show the community, to bring them together. And the staff will be heavily involved. It won't just be recreation staff. We want to get the rest of the staff involved in this because that connection is really important as well. So that's the theme is connection. And then we'll move from there. As we move into 2022, we do know that our community is changing a little bit, and that we have more and more youngsters joining the community every day, and we want to be able to provide some activities for them, some recreational activities for them, where the parents can actually stay in Sudden Valley rather than run back to Bellingham and make that run all the time. So while we haven't come up with a specific work plan for that yet, that's what we're starting to think about, is how are we going to do that? How are we going to kick it off? Can we do something in the fall? If we can, we're going to, and then move into a more fuller, robust schedule in 2022. One of the other things we'll be doing is we actually are doing a budget workshop for staff to put the budget together. And we're going to start to plan the 2022 capital plan as well. We're not going to wait till 2022 to get there and then throw it all together. We're going to do it in advance. Of course, the community and the board and everyone gets a say so on what how we put it together ultimately. But we've heard a lot from the community and all of the committees and the board on what are some of the important projects. So those will end up showing up. And again, we know recreation and trails are a big part of, and parks are a big part of that. So one of the challenges for me is I came in and, it takes a while to get to know what's going on. And so now we're a little, I know you guys have talked a little bit about capital, but we're a little late in moving forward with things. So, and we're getting right up to that construction window that we have. So if we don't get something in soon, we may not get the thing, but we might not get it done in 2021. But we'll plan, especially in the parks, to double up and do a couple of things in 22 that will kind of make up for it. So that's kind of an overview of what we're planning to do. It is because of the regulations and so many unknowns. Our goal is to remain flexible and be able to change on a dime if we can. But connection is really what we know the community needs and wants, and so do we. So that's what we're going to focus on for the rest of 21.
Thanks, Glenn. So I guess I just have kind of a question. What do you need from us, if anything, or how can we kind of support that process, either the budgeting process or the capital planning process? It's kind of something we have always done, is had some sort of list of priorities, that we've worked closely with the rec manager, but it wasn't part of a comprehensive plan. So I like where this is going, definitely to be thinking even further ahead. So you don't necessarily have to tell us tonight, but if it would be awesome if all of the committees were kind of feeding into this greater
Yeah.
planning process in a timely manner.
Yep, I think that's the plan. So I would love to see I know you've discussed it at a number of meetings, but I'd love to come and join you at your next meeting for a discussion on it.
Okay.
We'll put a rough draft together, but we're not presenting the budget. We have time. So I would like to hear, because I know you guys have done a lot of work on that and had a lot of discussions. So love to have a kind of a working session with you and come up with some priorities so that we can get 22 and I am also, I've done this in roads already and stormwater already to plan for 23 as well. So kind of a 2-year plan with the ultimate being a 5-year plan for all of these. So we know what's coming and we can make adjustments each year with the budget, but we've kind of set out a 5-year plan, and then it makes it easier to, formulate that and look at that when you compare it to the reserve study. And the reserve study can then really start reflecting what the community wants and what we can actually get done. And those are always competing factors. So certainly if you would, putting that on the next agenda would be fantastic, and we'll come up with your recommendations, and then we'll kind of meld that into ours and include that as part of our budget for 2022.
Sounds good. So how we typically operate is we have subcommittee meetings, people that are really familiar with the various aspects. So we have a parks subcommittee, a marina, and a trails. So I would assume that it would be kind of each subcommittee kind of talking about their priorities, and then we would have to, between those, prioritize those, like kind of come together
Yep.
and
Yeah.
do that. So, but I know each of the subcommittees has kind of their own ideas about things already, things that we've been talking about for several years. So it'd be good to kind of put it all together and roll it all the way up. That sounds great.
Yep.
We'll get that on the
Okay.
agenda.
All right, let's do it.
All right. Any questions or comments on that? Okay, then that's a pretty good segue to the subcommittee reports. The first one's parks, and I'll go ahead and talk about it. We, as you guys might know, several years ago, we put together a parks master plan. There's a link to it on the website. And also if you're walking like from the entrance of the community center towards past the bathrooms and towards the multipurpose room, you'll see pictures of it, each park, and it kind of lists what each of them have, the facilities in each of them. So that was something that was done, a collaboration between the previous rec manager and these committee members. And so now we're in the process, and we hope this to be an annual process where we go back through it and we have a checklist where we're, is it being maintained according to how we said it should? Is there anything that needs to be addressed? Are there opportunities for improvement in it? Everything along those lines. This year in particular, we're looking at speed limit signage and speed bumps near it, because we have noticed that it's inconsistent. And we have, especially with COVID, we've noticed a lot more pedestrians, particularly kids, walking to and from their homes to parks. And so we're just noting it so that we have the information and we can pass it on to whoever, if we want to pursue some more consistency in that any further. So our plan is to have that completed by the end of May, and then we'll meet as a subcommittee and talk through that and incorporate any changes. I know some of the parks have been updated since the last time, and so they need new pictures and things like that. So it will be updated. And the other thing, I just spoke with Andrea down at the marina, and there's some volunteer work that can be done to just weeding and just things that volunteers can do. Our maintenance guys do a great job taking care of our parks, but sometimes and I know there's community members that want to help. So we are working on maybe putting together a community volunteer day or weekend or some way for people to kind of come down and work together in cleaning up our parks, kind of similar to city and county parks do often. So we're still just kind of working through those details, seeing what needs to be done. And so that's on our agenda as well. I don't see Kathleen or Rob here for Trails of Parks. I know I was able to join the Trails Subcommittee for a hike on the Lake Louise Road Trail on the Area Y Trail, and it has, I mean, so much improvement since the last time I was there. So you can hike all the way up Area Y. I think it comes out maybe on Southern Court. So that was the committee had done some work, and then I think they sort of took a break during COVID, not wanting to be around people, but maintenance kind of picked up where they left off. And other than I think one tree across, yeah, that's what they're, oh, Adam, you're here, so you can talk about trails.
I can fill in on.
You talk about trails.
For Kathleen.
Yeah.
Well, that was actually a really fun experience. I think that's the second time we managed to pull off a trails meeting, I guess, on a trail, which is just, it's great. So we can all look and, walk a trail and look and, talk about what maintenance needs to be done. I mean, it's obvious when a tree's across the trail, something needs to be done. But then if you're looking at like a drainage issue, then maybe the trail's running through the wrong place or a culvert needs to be unclogged, and it's a great way to experience what we do. So one of the things we've been talking about are goals. I think we've already been talking about it is better connectivity of all the trails in Sudden Valley, and reaching out to areas that don't have trails and making sure that there's trails was actually brought up in the strategic planning session the other day about having more accessible trails too. Just for all, we have Lake Louise trails, but there's always a potential to have a little bit better accessibility and let the nature experience be for everyone. And I guess also working with, continuing to try to work with EPC as far as having trails available for evacuation purposes and safety. There's another big one. And we talked about the challenges of basically of trying to reach out into other areas where there aren't trails or we don't know of the trails because we're only a small committee. And, I can name every trail in my area, and Little Strawberry happens to be pretty blessed with trails, but yeah, that's another challenge we're up against. So not what I've got. And yeah, I'm not sure where Kathleen was. Actually, her last email out to the committee looked like she was going to be here. So.
Oh, that's good. Thanks. Anne, did you have a question?
Muting there. Wasn't unmuting. Has anybody been on the new connector that was just built last month at Area Y?
Are you talking about? It looked like there was some trails coming down from the road that was new to the Area Y. When we walked on Area Y trail last month, that was actually my first time ever walking on that trail. And you're talking about the one that pretty much follows a sewer right of way. It follows, from what I could tell, it follows an old road. But we saw a couple places where a trail was coming down. It looked like it had just been cut through. And we weren't sure who did that.
Maintenance they put new markers at the top and at the bottom.
Okay. And where's the top of it?
Gooseberry.
Okay, I think that's the trail we saw coming down. This was kind of, nobody on the committee actually was aware of it. It was kind of, that was one of we were actually surprised by the amount of work or Kathleen and Frank and it was Cindy, the ones that have actually done a lot of the volunteer work. They're like, oh, maintenance has been here and they've done this and this. We noticed the markers, but I think I know what trail you're talking about. Anyway, go on.
I guess my question is, how did that come to be then? If this committee no, and it's concerning because it's very steep.
That's
The
Yeah.
entry going into it is extremely steep.
And I don't know if Glenn, if you or Jacob know about that trail. I could probably pick it out, and I'd have to bring up a map and pick it out again. It was my first time back up there, but that was a surprise to everybody on, that was on the tour. Was, oh, look, there's a trail. I mean, it was like, okay, I guess they're making a trail down from the road, but
The other,
that
it also seems to cross a private lot.
that's another, that's actually another, as we were walking Area Y Trail, we were talking about that and identifying property markers along that. And that one's for sure, from what you can tell is a sewer easement, because you see a manhole about every 100 feet or so. Yeah, that is, I don't know, Glenn, if you've got.
Yeah, we can look into that. I'm not 100% aware of it either. So we'll look into it and I'll report out to you.
I have a date of when they did it. There were two maintenance people working on it.
Okay. So you want to send that to me or?
Yeah, I'll send that to you.
Okay, perfect. And then I'll follow up and see what the thinking was and double check on your concerns.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else about trails?
No, that was the I guess the only surprise was that, and we knew that they were putting some, they were going to be putting some markers along there to tell people this way to there, but yeah, and I think somebody mentioned that there I don't know if neighbors have been talking to maintenance or about wanting like routes for school kids. I mean, that would be the only thought, but again, I find it odd that the Parks Committee or the trails, it's wherever that request was made, because obviously somebody asked somebody to do it.
Yeah, and I can speak to the actions on the parks maintenance guys. They fill out or they complete work based on what has been planned before. They don't really get to just pick and do something. So everything they've done as far as trails, and I know all the trail markers that were made up because I ordered those, and those were all based off of previous plans or action items that were developed by the rec manager. Whether or not the current Parks Committee, would like some of that stuff done, obviously something to evaluate. There's always a running list of those items, and some of them date back 2 years, I know, to previous positions, pre-COVID, things of that nature. And to the property marker issue, we've found markers moved, and yeah, there's sewer, there's utility easements where people think they own it and they actually don't. So there's a whole bunch of issues, but get the stuff to Glenn and they'll definitely figure things, or we'll definitely, get a response back to you.
And does the trail marker say it's Area Y Trail, or does it have a different name? It says Area Y. Interesting. Okay, thank you. Maria, did you have a question?
I do. Is there still the previous rec manager told me that all of the Sun Valley trails are available via a link on the website. Is that still available?
It should be.
I want to say yes, because I know it's been there, but then when I looked before it wasn't, or just recently it wasn't there, but I know that there's a link to, basically it takes you to Google Maps and it shows the trails for different areas. I'm not sure what she had found some GPS tracking software that she had gone through and mapped kind of all the known routes of the trails.
Because I was looking and it says that I don't have access to Google Maps. It says, we're sorry, but you do not have access to Google Maps. Please contact your organization administrator for access. And then I just see the trails master plan.
Yeah, interesting.
I just wanted to get my eyes on what you all were talking about, because I'm like, apparently I need to go walk some trails because I don't know what y'all are talking about.
Do you have access to the trails master plan though?
I do. That should be on it. Yeah.
Okay, so that at least has, at the end of each trail section, has a map that
Okay.
shows the route.
Okay, I can see that one.
I've got
It's pulled up.
But I know Maddie had done, especially while everything was closed down for COVID, she had gone and marked everything with pins. I mean, blessing boxes and free little libraries and the trails. I think she had actually, you know, put the waypoints in there for even easier
I
access.
think
So I'm not quite sure. And I have seen it before. I guess I haven't been back on the website to look, so I'm not quite sure.
Megan just posted or just chatted the link to it. So
Megan put it, okay.
Maria,
Yeah.
that link right there is the one that's got them all. And right now
Awesome.
it doesn't look like, let me,
Yeah, I'm like, hello, Tiki.
Maybe we can all, after this meeting, go look for it. And if you find it, send it out to the whole group.
Yeah.
Because I know that is one that the community, you'll get community members frequently. You know, someone will mention a trail or they're new in the area or they're not. They've been here for a long time and they're just like, where can I find this? Everyone knows, you know, Lake Louise Trail, and then everything else. They're like, what? I didn't even know that existed. So it's good to have. But
Yeah,
I'll look for it after this meeting for sure too. If this one that Megan sent isn't, I don't want to click on it now, or it will. Did you click on it, Megan, and it worked?
Yeah, I've got a second wander, so I can click on it over here. But
Oh,
so it has Sudden Valley Gate 1 and 2 trails, Google Maps, Sudden Valley 3, 9, and 13, and then it has a Gate 5 campground and airport recreational amenities. And they seem to work when I'm clicking on them. So I'm thinking that those are them. It's just 3 separate links.
okay. Thank you, Megan.
So it's in Sudden Valley amenities part of the webpage.
Okay.
There's also at suddenvalley.com/recreation. I think those are the actual Google Maps you're looking for.
Okay.
Where was that, John? I'm following you.
Suddenvalley.com/recreation. I've just posted that in the.
That's where I usually go to look for stuff. It seems easier to find there than sifting through, but yeah.
yeah, and I can see where that area wide trail gets pretty close to Gooseberry Circle. But that was my observation too, and was that it was incredibly steep. I was like, wow, that's without even switchbacks. But anyway, I guess we'll figure out the mystery, the answer to that one soon enough. But yeah, the work that Maddie did on the mapping part of the trails and the amenities through all those links is a pretty good start for, you know, I hope eventually Gene or Glenn, I don't know if but it was a good starting point for an app or something that would be really useful to a homeowner instead of having to sift through a few different things. It's like, what do I want to do in Sudden Valley today? Anyway.
Yeah, it's really cool. Okay, any other questions about trails? Okay, good question, Anne. Hopefully we'll get that information to you. And Maria, I hope you were able to find what you were looking for. If that is all about that, I'll move on to old business. Oh, no, sorry, Marina, which neither Rob or Bob are here. The only update I have is that I have been told that well, you guys, staff probably knows, but the dock is in. So, and it's fully functional. So that's good news because that took a little while to do. But it looks good. It looks nice and sturdy. No one's going to fall off of it like the old one. So, and the new, for any of you that remember us talking about it, the new gate entry system is also in. So there'll be kind of like a whole new launch way now. And it also works for the soft launch, which people use for sailboats and smaller motorized boats. So that's good.
Like the traffic flow and, you know, people and car interactions and stuff has improved there. I know that's always been an area of concern.
Yeah, you get, on those busier days, people parking in places where they shouldn't. And then you're like, well, we can't, you can't. I actually saw a Jeep get hit one time when someone was trying to back. I can't remember if they were backing a boat in or out, but someone had parked in a place that said no parking, but anyway, so it was tricky back there, but now that whole area will be gate access only, key card only, so you won't have just a lot of extraneous vehicles, so that's good. So under old business, Andrew had the charter in there. There was just a question at our last meeting of whether we had proposed, I think, just some minor changes to some wording in the charter for clarification. And there was a question of whether or not those had been approved, and Andrew said that they had been approved by the board. And then item B under here is non-member usage, which, as you guys remember, we had just kind of talked about the possibility of exploring what if anything can be done about possibly charging non-member usage. And the question always comes to, well, what are actual requirements based on our tax status? I had sent some information that I found last year at the very end of my term on the board. That was like the original, I guess, opinion letter from an attorney on how we qualified for the tax exempt status. And it talked about the usage and many of our amenities. So I sent that over to Andrew, and he was going to, I think, talk to the board about it, whether or not there was support for us pursuing it or if another committee should pursue it and whatnot. And he said he hasn't done that yet, so he will get back to us when he has and let us know where we should go from there. So that's all I had for the agenda. Is there anything else for the good of the order that anyone wants to discuss or questions about either of those old business items? Anne?
I guess I think first we need to have a clear understanding about the tax status.
Mm-hmm.
Because there have been several stories. And so we need to know the truth about it from the beginning before we can even get to that point.
Right. Oh, sorry.
If you go back to the views, Kurt Casey said that nothing would be open to the public, and that was clearly incorrect. So from the beginning, it's been an issue and it's been dealt with incorrectly. So that's the first point to see why it was even done. And if it was done correctly, there are concerns about that as well. And then the usage issue, we have no idea how many residents use things compared to non-residents, and to make decisions without that knowledge makes no sense.
So that was kind of our first idea, is that we would go back to the beginning and understand the tax status. I mean, I think this document might answer some of the questions about how things were used then and what the expectation was then. But that's kind of more of a board question to answer, really. And then it would be guidance from them on how they want us to proceed. If they want us to proceed, is it, okay, do we start with, okay, let's get some data on usage, or is it put together, whatever it is. But that's kind of where we was looking for. It's kind of an issue that comes up every year, and you're right, it's based on a lot of assumptions about what people think.
Well, the marina, for example, is the prices for a non-resident to use the marina are just, they don't make sense for anybody that's not a resident to come here and use our marina, because the costs are so high in comparison to other places. So I don't believe we have hordes of people coming to use our marina, because they are easily triple, if not quadruple, the price of every other public marina.
So it's been my understanding that as far as our marina and the slips and the dry slips, that they're booked solid, and a majority of it is Sutton Valley members,
right?
Which, you know, they're priced to favor Sutton Valley members, which
right, as they should.
Sense. You know, I think the whole use non-member usage thing comes up because it potentially represents an opportunity to bring in revenue from outside the valley, non-dues revenue, but there is a significant amount of planning, and that's, I think, been the ply of everyone is let's get to the bottom of our tax status, because that's what it. And so it's, if somebody knows the secret answer, I've been here for 4 years and I've heard 4 different stories. I think I know the answer and stuff. I'm not going to sit here and say my version of it, but if somebody knows the answer, please tell us, find it out, get it on paper, get it legal so we can spit at it and put a price tag on it and make $5 off everybody that wants to come and throw their ball for the dog at the dog park, because we got the best one in the county.
Yeah.
I think there's more than making revenue. So I live on the side of Sofield Park, and I am out in the park all the time in the summer. And I talked with, there were a couple of weekends the families I met there, everyone I met, by the way, was wonderful, friendly, happy. I did not have any bad experiences. But the majority of them on several days were from outside of Sudden Valley. And my thought was, this is a great place for little kids to come and families and everything, but why aren't these Sudden Valley families that are coming down? And I heard from some younger parents in Sudden Valley that they didn't come on purpose because it was just too crowded. So I guess that's kind of partially what is behind my concern also is, I mean, it'd be great. It'd be best if we had, Sudden Valley kids down here playing at the park with their moms and dads. So.
I think that would be part of the idea of having some sort of if there's a fee for a non-Sudden Valley person to go and park there, then sure, we may get one less person. It may offset it. That person going to the park, they may go somewhere else.
Well, I don't know. This is down the line. I don't know who would monitor that. There was one day when there were 21 cars parked along this wrong side of the road. There's only about 5 parking spots. And it's also possible that this past summer was an anomaly that we're just done because COVID's kind of wrapping itself up. But yeah, it's kind of and if we had numbers, like if I had a little tally sheet out there and every day been tallying up, how many people are here from here and here and here, which is, something else that I don't know how you would make happen, but that would be some valuable data, right? But we kind of have only, like me, giving you an anecdotal story. We don't have any hard numbers.
That's all stuff that definitely would have to be built into the fee of doing such enforcement and that sort of thing. And I've often heard that we're not equipped to become a towing and impound lot out here, nor do we want to. And there's potential liability, but there's also private companies that will up and do everything for you. You see it all over Seattle, and you park in the wrong spot and you get that bill from Diamond Parking. You generally pay it because they can go after your credit, which is they've got teeth. Whereas it's been said that Sudden Valley Security has no teeth really. So it's definitely something that should be, it sounds like it could be a good idea, but it's a lot of for a lot of reasons, there's a lot of planning that would have to be done with it.
Right. And I think it's been talked about a lot in the community, and it would require a significant amount of staff buy-in, most likely, if they were the ones to enforce. And I think that's kind of been the piece that's always missing, is that, an idea will get proposed. The community is like, oh yeah, that seems easy. It seems no problem. And then when you actually kind of have a conversation with some of the staff, they're like, well, hold up. Like you said, there's liability issues, there's limitations in some of the things. So those are all the things. I don't know who was first, Steffi or Maria, that had their hand up.
I can wait.
Steffi, go ahead. I'll go after you.
Oh, okay. The only thing I was going to say was that, all those questions just to me tell me that we need a use study. We need some sort of data. But that's it.
So I think if I can go off that same vein is, and Jeannie, thanks for mentioning it, is myself and my family have experienced the same thing. And I know we can all tell anecdotal stories. So I guess instead of not doing that, can we please get an answer from the board for the reason that, just an example, like I use the Galbraith dollar lot. There's nobody out there maintenance checking out if I put my dollar in that in the little area or not. So it would definitely would be a, I don't think that we really need to see a usage. I think that we put a little, we put something in the road with a little, like little mailbox. Are you a guest using our facilities? Put your money in. Nobody monitors the dollar lot, even when I grab a water or grab the raspberries. Nobody monitors that. It's me knowing that I was there. I use it when I'm parking, this and that. And there's that. But secondly, it's been the same for myself and my family. We've been the only Sun Valley family when we're playing with our kiddos. The thing that really got me was when I, the first time that I used AM PM beaches, folks were launching from the side of the beach, trying not to pay the marina fee. But then that parking lot was just absolutely chaotic. There's people from Mount Vernon. There's a guy from Idaho. Like these are all outside folks using our facilities. So I guess just get an answer. That would be wonderful if we can get an answer from the board and then we move forward.
Thanks, Maria. I've had similar experiences down at AM Beach. Yeah, we all tell our things, but like the whole moms group from Linden comes and they're really nice, but it's tricky when you know that I've seen families that I recognize from school and whatnot turn around and leave because especially last year, it was just too crowded and they didn't feel comfortable. And that was just unfortunate, I thought. So yeah, lots of questions still open and it gets talked about year after year after year. So we're just kind of hoping this committee, it's something that it's facilities that we kind of oversee. A lot of us use them a lot. And so it's just something that we're hoping to get traction with in some way. And Megan, I saw your hand just go up.
I think Steffi was still waiting with her hand unless she was already. Oh. Did you finish, Steffi?
Did you have another?
Whoops, I'm sorry, I'm done.
Okay, just want to make sure. One thing that maybe this is a good idea, maybe it's not a good idea, but if we do want to somehow get some data on that's not just anecdotal on users of the park, what if when we sent out payment books, we sent a couple like stickers for the car windows that say Sun Valley member or something. And then we kind of push and ask people in the community, can you display this on your car so we can look through these parking lots during the summer and see how many Sun Valley cars are here compared to non-resident cars and get some sort of data on that. That could be a way that we kind of gauge the effect size of the problem, of if it's just overcrowding mostly because there's a lot of people here who want to use the beaches, or is it really like, wow, over 50% of the cars here are non-Sun Valley all the time. That would be probably a different approach to solving that problem then.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really good idea. I also think sometimes people forget how crowded the other gates are and that we all have to drive to get there. So it's easy to say that the cars are from others, but I think the majority of them are from right here. I know everybody on my street drives. Our kayaks are down there, but we drive down. And I think that's a really good way to do it without having a lot of, because it's a really difficult way to do it, but it's a fairly simple way to get some type of gauge.
That's interesting too. In the strategic planning sessions, I can't remember who brought it up, but that it was brought up of just different. We need better Sun Valley shirts, and I think you designed some beautiful ones at one point. But like we need and like window stickers and that sort of thing. Like so you see around town, and you see somebody else with a Sun Valley window sticker. You're like, hey, I know you. And so I think that would be something that would work twofold. Anyway.
Well, and depending on what answers we find out about the tax status and how we can manage that, I mean, it could be that we designate, this area of parking, you need to have a sticker to park here. This is Sudden Valley resident parking, and here's, a few parking spots that are open to the public. If it's more of a managing how many people are coming in kind of an issue versus a creating revenue issue, maybe there's a way we don't need so much staff time necessarily to do that. But I think initially, we need to find out about the tax status and what that restricts us from doing, and also to gather some data, I think would be really good.
So Sam, I think you have access to that document too. I put it on that Parks share page. So you have that. And I think what our specific ask was to have someone else, subject matter expert, I guess, review it, or not even review that, but just give us an opinion on what really are the requirements. Like Megan just said, does open to the public mean every place, all day, every day? Is it specific areas? Can we designate it? All of that stuff. And then from there, we can kind of decide what's the best plan to go forward based on what is our goal? Is our goal to make revenue? Is our goal to reduce crowding? Is our goal to improve safety? Could be many of these things. Is it just to have a feeling like people that are using our facilities have a stake in it too, and are just sharing some of the costs by contributing some to, the cost of maintenance and whatnot. So there's quite a bit that still needs to be answered, but I think that very first question is, what are our requirements? Where do we have leeway and where do we not? And we honestly don't even know, because like Ann said, and Adam, we've kind of been told different things over time. It seems that the way we're operating now is, yes, everything is absolutely 100% open to the public at any time that they want to use it, except for the places where we already charge money and then we charge them a little bit more. But our parks and beaches have been operated as just 100% open.
So does anyone know if we got a legal opinion on that from our attorney? It sounds like we haven't.
Not our current
Maybe
attorney. No,
It's-
I don't
okay.
believe we have one from Rich. What I have seen is, and it's, gosh, Ann, I don't even know if you remember when this tax status happened, but we got an opinion from what I believe was a tax attorney at the time, telling us, basically saying why we could qualify for this, but it did go through listing some specific amenities and how they were used. And I don't remember it, and I wouldn't even try to form an opinion on it based on I have one kind of, but I wouldn't say it out loud because it's probably wrong. Sam's got that, I think, and he could forward that to you so you could look at it. But that was our hope, is that some other attorney or someone that could read it and make sense of it could give us a definitive opinion on it.
So I'll get it from Sam, and then I'll talk to Rich, and we'll get something official. That's a great place to start.
It is.
To guide us. So we'll go ahead. Go ahead, Dan.
I'd add that, everybody needs to keep in mind, we have a public library here, which has to be open to the public. So that's another thing that complicates this conversation, because if you start charging people to come here, you can't keep people from coming to our public library.
I've got an interesting thought. Having gone to libraries, from public libraries, I would always park in the library parking lot, and what I did on my way in was plug quarters in the city meter. So there might be some sort of a balance with that, but I don't know if that's necessarily a big obstacle.
I think though that the library, that this all happened in conjunction with the library, and it was all happened at the same time, that was part of the deal that was struck, that we would have a library here. And I just feel like we're kind of stuck, and we want to talk, like, until we get this answer, we can't really, the discussions we have about what to do next or how to handle it, or we can't really even go there, because we got to know, like, the library, well, from one of the long-term residents that I talked to, that was part of the whole deal.
So I'll add, interestingly enough, I have been told, and again, I don't know, this is rumor, that one of the areas that is actually not public is the adult center and the quiet pool behind it. Those do not have to be open to the public. What I was told is they were part of a different, they're not part of the same trust. No idea if that's true or not. That's another complicating factor that I've heard, so who knows? Yeah, so
it just seems like we know we don't know a lot and we need to know some more to kind of sum it up.
Yeah.
So if we can get that knowledge, that would be great, because, you know, whether we have to treat every facility exactly the same or not, or if some can be designated, you know, you need to have the proper parking sticker to be able to access this very limited beats that only 5 cars can park at or whatever, you know, just we need that information. So it sounds like, Glenn, you're going to talk and try to get us that with the attorney, and that would be great for this kind of more pointed question about that versus looking at that old document that Karen was describing. That kind of we might be able to interpret, but doesn't necessarily fully give us the information that we need.
Yep.
And then we can kind of go from there. I mean, there've been, Sam just mentioned it, anything from just, and Maria, like an on your honor Discover Pass to a fully monitored, you know, security or some outside firm. Like everything across the board has been, and there's probably ideas that we haven't discussed, but has been discussed and talked about, and the pros and cons, and that we just keep spinning our wheels on it. And I think it always comes back to that we don't really know what our requirements are. So thanks, Glenn, especially for attending tonight. And yeah, I will hopefully we'll make sure you get that so we can kind of make some progress on that. And then
I think Maria brought up a good point too in the chat right before she had to get off about, she said, or a survey. And I'm not sure if she was here to take the survey we just had, but we do have that bit that we're already starting to build off, and Long Range Planning Committee is currently working on this year's survey. That's going to be, you know, somewhat repetitive, but somewhat expanded in different areas to create both a baseline and get better and more data as far as residents and what we do out here. So I think that hopefully, you know, information like that will help build, you know, the different plans that we have going forward.
yeah, that sounds good. Okay, any other questions, comments, concerns? Anyone wants to share? All right. Thank you, Glenn and Sam and Jacob, for attending, especially Jacob. Is this like the last time we'll interact with you, probably?
Probably. I mean,
right.
I'll be around. I mean, I'll say hi to people and all that. So I'm not moving away or anything, but yeah, probably the last time in an official capacity.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And for all you've done. I really have enjoyed working with you over the last, I don't know, year or so that I've gotten to know you. So thank you so much for your, all you've done for the parks and all that. I really appreciate it. And I wish you the best of luck on your next adventure, but we're super sad to see you go.
No worries.
All right. I guess, do we have a motion to adjourn at 7:48 p.m.?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All right. So that was Adam. All in favor? All right. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. Oh, real quick, I'll just announce that when John sent out the meeting invite, he sent it as a recurring meeting. So that has our next meeting is June 29th. And I guess it's probably not my decision, but I'll talk to Andrew about, we had talked about maybe not meeting every month, but since we had some things already that we wanted to discuss for the next one, the priorities, and maybe even we'll have some information on the follow-up with this latest discussion about non-member usage. I'll suggest to Andrew that we go ahead and keep that meeting time. So unless there's any objections to that.
If you keep it short, I'm good with it.
Yeah, we'll do our best. Okay. All right. Thank you guys so much.